What's up, horror fans? It's Danny from the Cast, and I'm going to be reviewing Season 3, Episode 5 of Yellowjackets on Paramount Plus. The episode debuted yesterday. Pete and I usually meet Saturday mornings to talk Yellowjackets, but Pete just moved, and he has not gotten his Wi-Fi situation worked out, so I'm just going to quickly go through my thoughts on this week's episode. I'm going to go into spoilers for the major plot points of the season so far and for this episode, and then I'll talk about what I am liking and what I'm not liking so far. If you have watched our channel, you know that Pete and I have not exactly been, I don't know what the right word is, excited or into this season as much. And I feel like the show has been on a kind of sadly slow decline since what was an excellent season 1. I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for most of season 2, but now we're halfway through season 3, and it's not great. There's good stuff. The acting, as always, is excellent, but I think for me, the writing and there's a disconnect in the writing. The stories of them as teenagers in the woods versus them as adults don't seem to be matching up anymore, and I just feel like the show is kind of treading water. And the problem is when you have these shows, and this is a thing, and this gets into like my broader point about the modern television, like TV shows on that are made for streaming. You get these like 8 to 10 episode series, and a lot of times it feels like, even though there's only 8 to 10 episodes, they only have about 4 to 6 episodes worth of really good stuff, and so you end up getting a lot of filler, despite the fact that the show isn't even on that long. And then with the modern streaming, you also have the fact that when a show ends, you can be sitting around waiting anytime between 8 months, 10 months, years between seasons. I saw a tweet the other day. Somebody was talking about how when they grew up, and I'm going to be 43 years old, so I grew up watching TV late 80s into the early 90s. My biggest TV watching years were obviously the 1990s. And then when I got together with Athena in 2008, we watched a lot of TV together. And some of our favorite shows that she got me into were like, we were big into like the Buffys, the Supernatural, Lost, which I've spoken about a lot. We got into those shows, and Vampire Diaries, things like that. And those series had 20 to 23 episodes a season, and they're still on in syndication. You can put on TNT or TBS or USA, and at any time of the day, you can find Buffy the Vampire Slayer on TV, Supernatural on TV. Forget about the sitcoms. You could always find those on. And the crazy thing is, they're rewatchable. I walked into the living room today, and Once More with Feeling, the Buffy musical episode is on. And I've seen it 10 to 15 times. I've sang the songs in karaoke, and I sat down and I watched the whole episode. And with these more modern shows, like Yellowjackets, even though there's only 10 episodes a season, and this is, I guess, the 25th episode, I don't feel like there's a rewatchability factor. And you don't get, with those older shows, there's usually that like overarching story beat. With Buffy, it was who's the big bad of the season, right? And despite this, there would always be those fun Monster of the Week episodes. I grew up in my house as a kid. It was the X-Files. Just finished In Search of Darkness, 1990 to 1994. And credit to David Weiner and everyone involved with that. It was amazing. But one of the things they talk about is horror and genre TV in the early 90s. And the X-Files was that. The whole point of the X-Files was Mulder's sister was taken by aliens. There's this big government conspiracy. But every week, Mulder and Scully were hunting down the monster of the week. And it made for such fun, compelling television. And so now we're here with a show like Yellowjackets, where this is a show that lends itself to that model. I would love an entire episode to take place in the woods and to focus on only 2 or 3 characters. Like, we could have gotten an entire episode of Shauna, Akilah, and Van tripping on the gas in the cave and having wild visions. But instead, we only got 10 minutes of that in the greater episode because we had to go back and see what the adults are doing. And this show, and I've made this point, it has started to suffer from it syndrome. And it syndrome is that stuff with the young people is really cool because they're young and the situations are scarier and they make rash decisions, and the adults are kind of boring. Great acting, but boring. And then this week we got some more good stuff in back in the 90s in the woods. Coach Ben was on trial last week, and his acting, Steven Kruger, is just my favorite part of this show. And I've said that with my reviews with Pete. Steven Kruger as Coach Ben this season has been so freaking good. And he's going to die at some point. I thought it was going to be tonight. Last night's episode. As I said, spoilers, he does not die. He's about to. And he's saved at the last minute. But he's gonna die at some point. And based on how good the acting has been from Steven Kruger, I'm hoping that when he dies on Yellowjackets, a new door opens for Steven Kruger, because he's fantastic. Let me know if you felt the same way. When you saw Ty actually see her wife and child, did you almost laugh out loud at the TV and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they actually remembered that Ty has a family? Yeah, that was really weird. And there's this awkward moment with Lauren Ambrose. She sits down next to Ty's, I guess, estranged wife. Oh, are you the lover or whatever? And she goes over to like play with her son, and her son almost immediately walks away from her. I thought there'd be more if we waited almost a season and a half to like see these characters again. And I thought there would be more. And maybe in the second half of this season there will be. But yeah, in the wilderness, Coach Ben was found guilty of setting the cabin on fire. He's sentenced to death. They draw the Suicide King, and Thaisa gets the Suicide King, which means she is responsible for shooting and killing Coach Ben. So Van takes Ty to try to unlock her other self so that she can be the one to kill Coach. Great performances by Liv Houston and Jasmine Savoy Brown. Again, the acting for me isn't the problem. For me, the acting is the way that some of the characters were written and just the general pacing and story progressions. For instance, major event in the show. Lottie, who was a big part of season 2 and was an interesting part of the first half of this season, is just found dead at the very end of last week's episode. And the way that they follow that up is to effectively turn it into a comedy routine where Walter and Shauna team up and play dress up as internet cable guys to get into Lottie's dad's penthouse. Lottie's dad, who is mentally unstable, he looks like he has either dementia or some kind of memory deterioration. So it's kind of sad, but now they're playing dress up together, Shauna and Walter. And then Misty shows up. Congratulations to Christina Ricci on getting a star on the Walk of Fame. Misty shows up, and now you have Misty versus Shauna and Walter at Lottie's dad's penthouse, trying to find secrets about how she died. And I called my sister, and my sister Emily is probably the biggest fan that this show still has. She goes on the Reddits, she goes on the TikToks for Yellowjackets, and she's big into the lore and everything. But one of the things that we always talk about, just her and I, is there something supernatural going on here, or is there not? And I thought for 2 seasons that they were setting up for there to be some kind of malevolent force, or whatever it is, the wilderness, the Wendigo, whatever it is. And I thought the marketing went in that direction. But my sister made this point last week, and I think I'm coming around to it. And that is that there is, nor has there ever been, a malevolent force or anything supernatural going on. And that, they planned on burning Jackie's body, and just the snow fell on it. And it left her at a perfect temperature to be eaten. The cabin burned down. Nothing supernatural. Maybe we will learn who actually burned it down, or maybe it just was an accident. In the vision Van had a couple episodes ago, she's sitting in the rocking chair, and just an ember from the fireplace starts the fire. Lottie's death. Maybe she just fell down the stairs. Travis's death. Maybe it was just a fluke accident. And you look at these characters, Shauna is, especially as a youth, Shauna is completely losing it now. I thought at the end of this episode, her and Melissa go with a knife right after. So Coach Scott is up against a tree. He's pleading for his life. Taisa's other takes over. She's about to shoot. And in a scene right before this, Lottie, Travis, and Akilah went to the cave, and they force Akilah to go in, pass out in the gas, and have a vision. And in the vision, she is walking back to civilization across a Coach Ben bridge. And she comes running back, and at the last possible second, Travis grabs Coach Scott and throws him to the floor. Ty shoots, would have killed him, would have been I think a headshot, and he ends up living. And their whole thing is that Coach is the bridge. We don't know what that means. We'll see. Hopefully. He's still going to die. But we then get Melissa and Shauna go up to Coach Ben with a knife. I thought Shauna was just going to fucking cut his throat. but instead Melissa goes and severs his Achilles tendon, so I guess he can't run away. And so Shauna is just completely unhinged, and we know that as an adult, she murdered Adam. So we know that that is still part of her, that she is still fucking crazy. We know that Misty's crazy. We know that Lottie was on mind-altering drugs. We know that Travis takes mushrooms when he's in the wilderness. We know that there's gas in the cave that gives them visions. So you can almost explain away every weird thing with a coincidence or just a normal occurrence. And I think that we're going to just find out later on that that the wilderness kind of broke them and they survived. Whoever survived, and they're just crazy. So I think my sister is right about that. I liked a lot of this week's episode. I thought there were some, again, good scenes. I liked the vision stuff. I would like I think they have room in a show like this to do, obviously not a monster of the week, but like a weird, like, detour episode of the week kind of thing. This episode starts with Misty telling Shauna, Van, and Ty that Lottie is dead. And I think the show is maybe blatantly hinting that Ty killed her, and that it's her other who is still present. Again, is that a supernatural thing, or is Thaisa just, does she have like split personalities? Is she schizophrenic? She has an other that can like possess her body. So, plus the show has hinted that there's another survivor with the phone in the bathroom. And is it Melissa? Is it Hilary Swank is supposed to be in this season? Is that, 5 episodes in out of 10? We haven't met her yet. So is she going to be Melissa? Is she going to be back? Who knows? So yeah, we'll see. But I just feel like this show is really kind of starting to lose me a little bit. Friday nights, early Saturday mornings when I watch this show, before I record with Pete, it's starting to feel more like homework than like I used to. After season 1, I would be like, oh my God, I have to get home. I want to watch Yellowjackets tonight. I got to take all my notes about it because I'm going to record with Pete tomorrow. And now I'm kind of like, oh, all right, Yellowjackets is on. Let me watch that so I have something to talk about tomorrow. So let me know what you think. I just want more. I want the writing to be a little bit better, and I want more storyline progression. I'm ready for some kind of like major event to happen. And when you get a character like Lottie, who's very important, when she dies and it's played off as an accident, and then characters are doing things that they would never normally do, and it comes off like bad comedy, that just really didn't sit well with me this week. In an episode that I liked probably more than half of, that one part, the whole scene in Lottie's dad's penthouse, just really, really irked me. So that's my take on Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 5. Hopefully Pete gets his Wi-Fi situation worked out, and we will be back Saturday morning next week to discuss Episode 6. And hopefully that episode is a little bit better. Other than that, I saw a really cool horror movie this week called The Rule of Jenny Penn. It is in theaters now. It will be on Shudder soon. It stars John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush as adversaries in a New Zealand old folks rehabilitation center. And John Lithgow has one of the creepiest performances you'll ever see. And if you have followed John Lithgow's career, that is saying something. Fantastic movie. It's in theaters now. Go check that out. I have a short review of that on the channel, and I recorded a 20-minute Q&A with director James Ashcroft at the IFC Center in Manhattan. So that video is up on the channel. So if you go see the movie, you'll want to come back and then watch the Q&A. And yeah, we're covering Yellowjackets. I'm going to have a full review of In Search of Darkness, 1990 to 1994. And Pete and I are going to be covering one of his favorite shows, and a show that I just started last week and I'm completely obsessed with now, Twin Peaks, as we continue paying tribute to the late, great David Lynch on the channel. So what did you think of Yellowjackets? How are you liking Season 3? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you very soon.